Hello, Steve Outs 89. Well, I am a fan of Doctor Who, but I'm sort of a new fan. I've always sort of had an interest in it, but never really looked into it till recent years. And there's been a lot of talk about the ratings and the current series of Doctor Who being produced by Disney. That's sort of like a reboot. It's technically season one of like a new era. Already been cancelled after the two seasons that have been filmed. There's talk they won't do a third season because it didn't rate well enough. Now, Who Culture, who I regularly watch, was looking at the ratings, and it's kind of interesting because we have to admit that the way TV is watched has changed, but not as much as people sort of like to make out. I mean, once upon a time, you had appointment viewing. Something was on TV. If you missed it, you would have to wait years for syndication or maybe video in a year, like 6 months or a year with Star Trek. Like we were fairly lucky in like the 90s and noughties with that. But now you have with streaming services, it depends if something is being released solely on streaming or released on TV as well. Now, or binge all at once or in lots or single episodes. Now, I really think we need to just simplify it. You need to look at the first 7 days. You can no longer look at the overnights because not everyone watches it on the night. That's an indication, but it's not everyone who's watching it. And the haters and the trolls will look at the overnights knowing it's going to be a bit lower and say, oh, it's failing, the sky's falling, blah, blah, blah. But if you look at the week, the whole week, because people come in, just different times to watch it and that, it's, better, does better. But you sort of have to realise that if you haven't watched, if it's a weekly show and you haven't watched it before the next episode, you're not really going to watch it until later. So there really needs to just be two ways to look at these charts, the week and the long term. And the long term, whether it's 28 days or 6 months or a year, whatever. And that, of course, is a concern to streaming services because, they are ongoing and they have people they want to have subscribe and be, their month in, month out. So that matters to them. But it shouldn't really matter to us so much as the audience. So I sort of respect that we have to look at the weekly and then sort of consider the long term. If a lot of people are binging later, it still can be a popular show, even if people aren't watching it in the first week. But so we can no longer look at the overnight anymore. But, we can't really go past the first week. That's a real indication of its popularity. Now, so far as Doctor Who, they went through how it did per episode. Episode 1 was 4 million. Episode 2 was 3.9. Episode 3 was 3.5. Episode 4 was 4 million. Episode 5 was 3.3. Episode 6 was 3.5. Episode 7 was 3.5. Have I gotten that wrong? And then the last episode was 3.6. So the average was 3.7, down from 5. Now, a lot of people are criticising that, but the girl from Who Culture, whose name I can't remember, did point out the fact that it screened in the summer, when I think Doctor Who normally screens in the winter with the UK. But, so that makes sense because all the other shows are rating lower. So within context, yes, if you're going to move it to a different season, then you're going to have different ratings because you've got different views from a different audience. And I think the BBC is happy with the way it's doing. My understanding is the highest Doctor Who has ever been on the charts is number 16. And this was, at its peak, number 16. So when they first restarted the show with Christopher Eccleston, the highest it got to was number 16. And its other peak was number 16. So it's just as popular and successful as before. And it's just a matter of Disney was expecting more. I think they were putting money into, they were basically buying a new property or producing a new show, and they expected it to perform as such. Whereas I think the BBC saw this as an opportunity to make some money and grow the series and get some attention from audiences that normally wouldn't watch. But that's not really happening because Doctor Who kind of has a set audience, so it's not really going to work. So either Disney will back out with after the two seasons they've committed to and let it go because it didn't make a bunch of money for them, and then the BBC will keep producing it because that's what they was planning to do after the Disney deal finished. Or if they were trying to get rid of Doctor Who and give it to someone else to produce and just take a cut basically or a payment for a licensing fee or something like that, then they may not go back to producing it. But chances are they're just going to go back to producing it even if it fails at Disney. So, I just think we need to simplify the way we look at streaming ratings because this is still a new thing and really just count, if it's a weekly show, the week, not the month, 6 months, a year. It's just stupid. And not count all the viewing minutes from a whole series and act like, oh, the first episode got this many views. Yeah, that was for like the whole series, each season. And if you've got shows competing that have got one season versus 6, it's really not a fair fight or really a good representation of the actual audience and fans. But I know it's kind of interesting, but I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I'm very tired. I'm guessing it shows.